this is Luke Smallwood, and this is my presentation on stress for contemporary health issues. I will be taking a look at some examples of stress in our society today, some harmful effects stress can have on the body, how it can affect the quality of life that we have, and I will be giving some suggestions on some proven methods that properly manage stress. So, what is stress? Stress happens when we feel we are unable to handle or control the situation that's around us or that we're in. Um, it's a physiological response where we may perceive something as a threat to us, whether it is or isn't, and um, this can cause feelings of being overwhelmed or pressured or anxious or things like that. And this response, though, is actually part of the fight or flight response. So it's actually beneficial to us in the sense that um, it's supposed to save us or help us get out of dangerous situations or when we feel threatened. Um, but the longer we stay in this state of being stressed, the more negative the effects become over time. These are two examples of stressful environments I'll be looking at in our society today. For work, according to Emily Prinsky, who's an assistant professor at the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, she gives some just reasons why we experience stress at work, and some of these can range from feeling unhappy in our job, or feeling overworked, or having to work long hours and having unclear expectations, or even feeling insecure about advancement in the workplace, and even having to work in dangerous conditions sometimes. For school, a research journal done by Misra Ranjita and McKean Michelle, although it was published in 2000, I think it's still very applicable today, where they talk about a rising trend in stress in college students, and how academic stress, which can happen from different areas, such as having to study for exams for long hours and grade competition, and having to master a whole lot of content in just a small amount of time. All these things can result in physical and psychological impairment of students, and just the negative effects this can have on the students themselves. When it comes to our health and quality of life, there are three main areas the Mayo Clinic gives that stress affects us in, and this is our body, mood, and behavior. For our body, our heart begins to beat faster than normal, and our breath becomes more rapid. And going back to what I mentioned earlier, this is part of that fight or flight response. But being overly exposed to stress can have negative effects. And some of the common effects that stress can have on the body are headaches, muscle tension or pain, chest pain specifically, fatigue, change in our sex drives, our stomachs might become more upset, and we might begin to experience problems sleeping. And for our moods, we might start becoming more anxious about things. We become restless. We'll have lack of motivation or focus for things. Irritability or anger, sadness, or even depression. For our behavior, some of the things that we might start doing are overeating or undereating. We might have anger outbursts on people. We might even go to drugs or alcohol or tobacco to help cope with the stress. And we might even start having social withdrawals. And all these things can just lead to us just not being ourselves and not enjoying life to the extent that we should be. Although there have been a few programs on stress that have become available for workers, people seeking to better manage their stress, and people with PTSD, not much has actually been done to help reduce stress in our society. Although a need may be felt and people have questioned whether or not we are being overworked, it has become such a part of our culture now that it is very difficult to change. There are, however, a few management techniques that have been proven to help reduce stress. These are exercise, time management, cognitive, and relaxation. For exercise, according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, and many other sources for that matter, have shown how stress is a good way to reduce stress. And one of the reasons is because it helps produce endorphins, which are chemicals in the brain that act as natural painkillers, which help improve the ability to sleep, and that in turn reduces stress. Um, and exercising has shown to decrease levels of tension, help stabilize moods, and even help with self-esteem. And exercise can actually work just as well as medication for some people, and just a few minutes of walking or things like that can help begin anti-anxiety effects. Um, for the other techniques, I actually took these from your lectures, but some good time management techniques would be just setting priorities ahead of time and just scheduling those tasks so that you can get to them to your best ability, and being able to just say no when you have to, because life is very demanding and people always ask us to do things all the time, and we just need to learn how to better handle things like that. Um, when it comes to cognitive, just because it is a perceived threat, it's just learning how to mentally wrap your mind around the situation and that problem, and how to control the situation, and just learning to think um, more constructively and positively, and and just being real about it and living in the present. Um, when it comes to relaxation techniques, there's many different methods that have been used for that, and these can include things such as yoga, um, meditating, journaling about what's going on, uh, massages, or even listening to music. In conclusion, stress, although intended for a good purpose, is something that can have harmful effects on us when we're exposed to it for too long. Stress can be found in many different areas of our lives, including work and school, and stress can be damaging to us physically and in the way we enjoy life and the way we interact with others. And although there aren't many big changes going on right now to help reduce stress in our society, um, there are many different management techniques, though, that have been proven to help reduce stress. And so the most I can recommend is just learning to relax, just having good, healthy habits, exercise, learning to manage your time, and just how to mentally process through the situation. So, yeah, that's the end of my presentation, and thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being our professor this semester.